So before we start, what we're doing here and what the aim is to rig these eyes for animation. We're not going to animate them today, we're just going to rig them so they can be animated easily. And before we get into it, I just want to talk about constraints. So we've talked about parents before and parent relationships and grouping. A constraint is like a creative parent or an editable parent. And when you parent something, you always select the child first and shift select the parent and hit P, and you end up with a parent relationship. With a constraint, it's the other way around. You select the parent first, then the child, and you apply the constraint. Constraints are more powerful in that we can select and narrow down different properties that we might like to constrain. So I'm just going to undo that whole parenting thing. Alright, so we've got two separate objects here. I'm just going to quickly name them. So I'm going to call it I, L for left, Geo, I, R for right, Geo. Now I've actually named these backwards. I've named that the right eye, and it's actually the left eye, but for our purposes it doesn't really matter. So first thing I want to do is, if I want to move these eyes around the scene, I want to be able to not have to grab both eyes together or just grab one of them that's parented. I want a control handle. So I'm just going to use a circle. So in my Create menu, under NURBS Primitives, select Circle, and go to your top view, and just drag out a circle. So this is our handle to move our eyes around the scene. So I'm just going to name that. I'm going to call it Eyes Controller. So the first thing we want to do is apply this controller to control the movement of our eyes around the scene. So the easiest way to do that is just a simple parent relationship. So I've selected them one at a time, shift selected the controller and hit P. So now I've got my eyes parented to my master controller. I'm just going to center them in the scene because I didn't do that before, and make sure that they line up nice and central to the Maya world space. And because I've moved them, I'm going to actually go back and freeze transforms again. And on the controller, freeze transforms. Okay. So I've got my controller, now I'm going to move to my constraint. So we're going to use an aim constraint. We're going to constrain the aim of these eyes to another object. Because I don't want a renderable object and I don't really want to use another circle, I'm going to use a locator. So go Create, Locator. And drag your locator out to where you need it in the scene, just in front of the eyes controller, and go Modify, and freeze transformations on it. So this is now its home position. Now that locator is pretty small, so I might just scale it up. So I'm going to move into my attribute editor, and under local scale, I'm just going to double its size. I'm going to go from 1 to 2 on all axes. Okay, so that's now ready to go. I'm going to label it as well, just so when I look in the viewport, I can see what it is and what it does. So with the locator selected, go Create, Annotation. I'm going to call this Eyes, Aim, CONT for controller. So the locator is now ready to be put into action. So remember, it's the reverse of a parent. So I'm going to have to select the parent, for lack of a better word, to be the master. So that has to be selected first. I'm going to select my controller and shift select one of the eyes and go Constrain, Aim. And just make sure you bring up its settings because you need this maintain offset checked. Hit Add, and then select it again, shift select the other eye, and do another aim constraint. I'll show you what this now does. If I grab the locator and move it around in space, I now have a controller that controls the aim of the eyes. So I'm just going to zero out my channel box, get my locator back to its 0 position. I'm going to create another one. So I'm just going to switch to the top view and I'm going to create another locator. Just put that over here. And I'm going to go Control D to duplicate it and create another one. So now switching back to the viewport, I'm going to freeze transforms on them because they're in their final position. Modify it, freeze transforms. And I'm going to label this one using my create annotation, and I'm going to call it, it's actually a right eye technically, let's call it left eye aim controller. And this one, so create annotation, right eye aim controller. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select this one and just this eye and go constrain aim, and then this locator and just this eye and go constrain aim. So now I've got a master controller that controls the aim of both eyes. Just going to zero that out. And I've got a left eye controller and I've got a right eye controller. So now they're all in place. All I need to do is parent my controllers to my master controller. So select the controller first, shift select the master and hit P. So now when I grab the master handle, I can move my my iRig around in space, and I can use my 3 aim controllers to steer the eyes in whatever direction I choose. Then I can go through and set my keyframes, and set my keyframes on the controllers and not the eyes. Thanks for watching.